What's up, veterans? Have an awesome video for y'all today. My guest is Danny Sheehan. He is back, round 2. I did another interview with him earlier. I'll put a link in the description. Please go check that out. And at the beginning of that interview, there's a great little montage that I made that explains a little more of Danny's background. So I recommend checking that out. Now, let's get to this interview. So I had Danny on, and we had a great conversation. Here's some highlights of the interview you're about to see. Maybe from Brandon Fugal's perspective, it's his ranch. And so he's thinking, well, I'm not connected to an aerospace company. It's just what's on my ranch. If I find something, can the government come and, scoop it up?
He's not finding anything. There's no UFOs under the ground at his ranch. This is just silly.
Did they drag them on a 18-wheeler, or?
Yeah, they go in and they cordon off the entire area. They declare, that there's some sort of a hazmat kind of danger there. Yeah, but you're not going to get these people to come out without greater protections.
Sure.
To them.
So that's got to pass first.
I'm not talking about just about the whistleblowers, the people who want to come forward and talk about this. I'm talking about the ones who don't want to come forward.
These are just questions. I like you, Danny, so that's why I asked, because I'm just like,
I wouldn't respect you if you didn't.
What do you say, y'all? Let's jump in. If you're new to the channel and you like content like this, please hit that subscribe button. I put out a new video every day, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. I do not miss a day, y'all. And please hit that like button, vetters. That really helps out the videos. So thank y'all so much for the support there. And of course, comment down below. What do you think about Danny's comments concerning Eminent Domain, the crash retrieval programs, all these whistleblowers? Let's go, y'all.
I live inside my own world.
All right, vetted crew, vetters.
Kids.
Guess who we got back on the show? We got Mr. Danny Sheehan back. So excited. The last time he came on, it was a hit, and he's back. Welcome to the show, Danny.
Terrific. Thank you, Patrick.
So glad to have you here. Look, before we jump into this, I want to play a video that the New Paradigm Institute has released. And I know you haven't seen it. I have. Spoiler alert. I did see it. But we're gonna throw up this video here. Great. And then just kind of discuss a little bit of its themes, because I actually find it very appropriate. Is that cool? We
Sure.
do that?
Let's do it.
Awesome.
We all know the grind, waking up early, getting the kids ready for school, commuting to work, coming back home, and repeating it all over again. Most of us spend our days working hard just to get by and take care of our loved ones. With rising utility costs, expensive groceries, ongoing tensions at home and abroad, and our environment suffering from human activity, it feels almost impossible to find a way out of this mess we've created. But what if I told you there's a path out of this situation? One that could unite us as a species. That path is UFO disclosure. While most of us haven't given this topic much thought, we all have a natural curiosity about life beyond our planet and what it could mean for us. Understanding the truth about UFOs, now referred to by the government as UAP, unidentified anomalous phenomena, could transform our world in remarkable ways. Let's explore 3 potentials. First, it could unite humanity. Knowing we are not alone in the universe and that we're being visited by non-human beings would make us realize we are one species, one family, on this blue gem of a planet. Second, energy. It's been reported that the U.S. government has retrieved and studied crashed UFOs in absolute secrecy, uncovering technologies that could replace oil, gas, coal, solar, wind, nuclear, and geothermal energy. Imagine a world where we don't pay utility bills, where we produce truly clean energy, and leave a healthy planet for future generations. And third, government transparency. We all have a right to know the truth.
The U.S. government is covering up the most important secret of all time.
We just want the truth.
The UFO cover-up has been the best kept secret of the last century, funded illegally with our tax dollars. That's right. Trillions of our hard-earned dollars have been spent on technology we don't have access to. It's time we demanded the truth and the benefits of what we've paid for. So, why does UFO disclosure matter to you? Because it directly impacts your life. But what can we do? The New Paradigm Institute, a nonprofit launched in November 2023, is dedicated to UFO disclosure for the betterment of humanity. As an extension of the Romero Institute, they have a proven track record of fighting for civil rights and public policy. Visit newparadigminstitute.org and take action.
Oh, look at that. Pretty slick, Danny.
Yeah,
I
that's
gotta
pretty,
admit, that's pretty good, man.
that's Tyler,
Wow.
Tyler, one of our video people. Yep.
Bro, that is so good,
Yeah,
Tyler.
we got a great staff here. You know, we got great offices. We're right on Capitol Hill. We're the
Yeah.
only civilian group inside the federal enclave, right on Capitol Hill, where we can, meet regularly every day with the Senate and House staff on all the legislation that's going on. It's a good staff we've got.
Wow. No, it's a great video. It's a great message. Anyone can get behind it. I love the new logo. Whoever's narrating that, I don't know if that's Tyler himself or what, but my goodness, great voice. Great. Yeah, it's just a great message anybody can get behind. Really enjoyed it, to be honest with you. I was expecting, I didn't know what to expect. Someone's like, hey, can you play this video before an interview? I don't typically do things like that. But then I watched it. I was like, this is great. This is going in. This is really good.
We've got
And
a
so I
brand new
appreciate you guys
we got a
putting
brand
that
new
together.
website. We just got it up. It just came up yesterday. It's a $60,000 website. Where it can reach down into each of the 435 congressional districts. Directly
Oh, wow.
communicate individually with each one of the citizens for disclosure groups that we're organizing in each congressional district. We've got the staffs on board to do videos and things. We've got a production company in LA that's offering to produce video for us completely for free to make it available to people in the country. This is
Wow.
the advantage in having a 40-year-old 501c3 public interest organization that, as they pointed out in the thing, has been involved in helping get the Pentagon Papers exposed, exposing the off-the-shelf enterprise, in the Iran Contra scandal, finding out who killed Karen Soquid out at the nuclear facility. We've been involved in this now here for 40 years, and we've got the trained staff to know how to do all this. And that's why Lou Elizondo contacted us at the when he had decided he was going to reveal all this information to the New York Times. Afterwards, he contacted us, and so we've been representing Lou and are going to be representing other whistleblowers. We've just crafted the new whistleblower UFO Whistleblower Protection statute that we've provided to Congress and is getting set now to go through the rules process over on the House side to strengthen the UFO disclosure protections that have been proposed by the Senate. So that's what,
Yeah, let's talk.
that's the
Let's
kind of
talk a
thing we're
little
doing.
more about that. That's interesting. But let's unpack that a little bit more. So these are expanded protections
Yes.
for whistleblowers, or
Yeah.
okay, like what are
Specifically
we
for
talking? Is
UFO,
it?
specifically for UFO whistleblowers.
Oh,
We've got Blumenthal,
oh,
Senator Blumenthal from Connecticut has proposed a new Senate bill which increases protections for all federal whistleblowers. What we've proposed is a special a UFO or UAP whistleblower protection statute that requires special privileges and protections for the UFO whistleblowers because of the extreme danger that they're in and the extraordinary lengths to which the national security state has gone in the past to suppress this particular secret. We are aware of the fact that new added protections need to be provided uniquely for UFO whistleblowers. And we've drafted that legislation specifically at the request of the House and we've presented it to them, and it's now in front of the Rules Committee to get a rule and a schedule for it, hopefully to be placed on the floor for a vote on the floor as a standalone piece of legislation to protect UFO whistleblowers, which our office, the New Paradigm Institute, also has a staff of lawyers that are going to be personally representing a number of the whistleblowers.
Wow. No, this is great. I'm all for this. And there's this new. I know Saturday was a crazy day for America,
Yeah, right.
but underneath that, slid this new UAP Disclosure Act proposal, right? Just curious your thoughts on some of this. Specifically, I just interviewed Brandon Fugal. I asked him about the eminent domain, right, and what he thought about it again,
Yeah,
and of course,
still thinks the
so
same
yeah, I'm
thing.
just curious. Yeah, he does. But look, I got to admit, he makes some good points, but I also told him you made some good points the last time I talked to you about it. So I can see both sides. I can see your side, what you're saying. I see what he's saying too.
What we are trying to present to the public transparently could be undermined or could be completely hijacked by some sweeping, ignorant, eminent domain legislation that hasn't been properly thought through, that hasn't been properly vetted. I do have a concern with that. I also think that it's a bit laughable that everyone thinks that congressional hearings and FOIA requests and any number of calls for disclosure are going to result in any such disclosure.
I don't know. I have. Where are you at with? Are you still in the same
Well,
place? Or
it's kind of it's I view their position as rather silly, actually. That like they don't seem to be aware of the fact that the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution, at the very origins of our entire government, have explicitly granted authority for eminent domain to the United States government. I mean that
so it's already there. You're
this
saying.
protest that they don't have the right to exercise eminent domain over this particular area is revelatory, I think, of the fact that they know they've got UFO technology that they don't want to provide back to the government. And the fact is that they got any of the technology they got it from the United States government. Now they're asserting
That's
that they
interesting.
own it. It's just like
Yeah.
I bring my car to you to ask you at the garage to fix my car, and you assert that you now own my car, and I've got to go to some extraordinary lengths to get it back from you.
Hmm.
That's silly,
That's interesting.
and so I think that this is just a mechanism that is being used by the private aerospace industries to try to prevent the revelation of the fact that they've been attempting to back engineer this technology for decades now.
Sure. No, I hear it. I mean, I think maybe from Brandon Fugal's perspective, it's his ranch. And so he's thinking, well, I'm not connected to an aerospace company. It's just what's on my ranch. If I find something, can the government come and,
He's, he's not
scoop it up?
he's not finding anything. There's no UFOs under the ground at his ranch. This is just silly. I mean, if in fact a farmer owns a farm and a UFO crashes into their backyard, they can't say, okay, I own it now. I get to keep the technology and patent the technology, et cetera. They don't own that. And
Hmm.
if they are
That's
going to
interesting.
assert that they own it for some peculiar reason, the United States government, under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution, has the authority to exercise eminent domain over that. That's just standard. I mean that
Sure.
Fugal obviously isn't a lawyer; he doesn't quite know what he's talking about. The fact is that this authorization of eminent domain authority has existed since the foundation of our whole country. All the statute does is
So,
it
well, then why
specifically
why
says,
put it in why put it in this new statute then if
well,
it's
more
already
more
there?
importantly, why object to it being in there?
Well, all right,
that's
fair enough.
that's
I mean,
that's fair
fair
enough
enough.
because they just
Yeah.
wanted to make it clear. They wanted to make it clear that this assertion that's being made on the part of the aerospace space industry that somehow they own it uh,
Yeah.
is just had to be countered. The people who are drafting this legislation, which we're involved in, know perfectly well what they're asserting, and so that we have gone forward to actually state on the record clearly that the power of eminent domain pertains to this particular information and these materials. This is not trade secrets on the part of the
Yeah.
aerospace industry. Yeah, it even
Wouldn't they bury it deeper?
Pardon?
Wouldn't they bury it deeper? Like if a drug running operation found out they're about to be raided, they're going to
Yeah,
get rid of the stuff.
yeah. Well, that's why
So
the statute also has depositions and subpoena power. That we can issue subpoenas for the information, and we can take the depositions. That's what I do. When we did the Iran Contra
yeah,
case, they were denying that they were smuggling weapons to the Contras. Naturally, they're going to say
yeah,
that. So what we did is
sure,
we subpoenaed them and dragged them in and took depositions under the threat of perjury, and extracted the information from them. We got the Congress of the United States to hold public hearings and hold them accountable to stop them from doing what they were doing in defiance of Congress. That's why you have lawyers. We don't fall
yeah,
for silly arguments like that.
sure. Well, I do, but
Well,
I'm not a
I like
lawyer,
it. That, that's
so
why that's why you have lawyers. That's why the New Paradigm Institute
sure,
is here, to be able to
100%.
provide legal counsel so people who are lay people who don't know any better, don't fall for silly arguments like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I'm with you. If I got a plumbing problem, I call a plumber.
Yeah,
Not trying to get in there
yeah,
and do it myself. I don't know what I'm doing.
yeah,
Same way, running my own kitchen, right? If someone stepped in that didn't know what they were doing, get them out. Like, what are you doing? You don't know what you're doing here. You're going to hurt yourself, first of all. But so what I get confused about this eminent domain, is that Jay Stratton was head of the UAP task force, and he's the one that sent David Grush on this investigation. Is David Grush against the eminent domain as well as Jay Stratton? Why would they have different viewpoints about that? I find that interesting.
because Jay Stratton is hired by a private aerospace corporation right now, and David Grush is not.
So it happened after Jay Stratton had sent him on this investigation. Jay Stratton then starts working for an aerospace company.
Yes, yeah. Jay Stratton,
Got it.
when he was in charge of
Okay.
the UAP operations inside the advanced aerospace operations inside the Pentagon, he had access to the information. When he went over and got hired by Radiance Technology, Radiance Technology now has hired him, and that's why Jay and Travis and the others, have also showed up in Washington opposing this bill. That
Yeah.
but the people who are still wanting to get the disclosure are taking positions that are obvious that this needs to be given to Congress. All we're arguing about here, Patrick, is to get the information into the hands of the House and Senate Intelligence Committee. This
Got
is
it.
information that's been gathered by the intelligence community. This is information that's been gathered by the United States military. No one is claiming that in the aerospace industry, they're the ones that invented this. Or that they're the ones that
Yeah.
went out and brought down UFOs, and therefore they own them. That's not what they're
Sure.
claiming. You know, so you just ask them like lawyers ask intelligent questions. What are you talking about here? You know, where
Yeah.
where where do you think you got that technology from? If it wasn't from the government,
Sure.
and that doesn't give you the right to
Sure.
own it or to get private patents on it and try to charge the United States government for a licensing fee anytime they tried to use it. That's what we're talking about here. And Brandon doesn't really have anything to do with this. It doesn't have anything to do with the Skinwalker Ranch or any of that stuff. They're talking about UFO craft. There's no statement by Brandon or anybody else that Skinwalker Ranch is in possession of UFOs. And so it's just
Okay. Okay. That's
silly
interesting.
argument.
I see what you mean. Yeah, I see what you mean. Okay. So the idea of eminent domain isn't to like seize property that may have some sort of high strangeness to it. They're strictly looking for nuts and bolts UFOs and potentially bodies only.
Yeah, no.
Is that
Look
the
at
idea?
that's something people don't quite understand here. All of this gobbledygook of transforming the UFOs first into UAPs, which was unidentified aerial phenomenon, and then they transformed into unidentified anomalous phenomenon, and they started trying to include things like Bigfoot, you know, and
Yeah.
leprechauns and fairies and all of that other stuff. All that is just obfuscation. You know, we're talking about UFOs here,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
everybody knows what a
Yeah.
UFO is. You know, except
Yeah.
for the people that are trying to confuse everybody. You know, we're not talking
Sure.
about commandeering any of their information that they've gotten at Skinwalker Ranch. There's not even any suggestion of anything like that.
Okay. No, this is good. You know, for me, this is news.
Yeah.
I guess I don't. Yeah, I just didn't quite understand it well, but I see your point. I definitely see what you're saying. That's interesting. Yeah. No. Look.
Well, you remember
What are your?
even Sean Kirkpatrick, when he was in front of the hearings by Senator Gillibrand, when he said, you know, look at, you know, we know what we're talking about. We're talking about UAPs. Anything,
Yeah.
and they're talking about UAPs, they're meaning UFOs. And so when you're talking
Sure.
about anything other anomalous, weird stuff going on, nobody's talking about commandeering any of that stuff. You know,
Okay.
we don't have the slightest interest in commandeering anything that's going on in Skinwalker Ranch. That's just want to get in on the conversation somehow. You know, the people you need to look to are the
Sure.
people in the aerospace corporations who are the ones that are really financing this objection. That's why Jay Stratton is showing up, and Travis and the others. They're employed by private aerospace corporations that want to have private ownership of these things after they've been given the technology for research purposes to look at it and
Yeah.
evaluate it for the government. And now they're claiming that they own it, which they don't.
No, I agree with that. I not if it came from our tax dollars. They don't own that. I mean, I'm with you on
That's right.
that.
That's a pretty
I
straightforward position.
absolutely, that totally makes sense. And that's an easy selling point for me, to be honest with you. You know, I remember, yeah, it was engaging the phenomena. James Iandoli, you went on his show, and great interview, by the way. Really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed James just as an interviewer and a person. I love watching his interviews, just first of all. But y'all had a really good one, and I made a video about this. You mentioned something in that, because we're on this topic of UFOs,
Yeah.
that there was two operational craft that you were aware of, and I'm want to unpack that a little bit, like, you know, really operational, what does that mean, and
Okay.
what craft, like, I don't know how many details you can give about that, but
was a statement that I heard from both Dr. Eric Davis and David Grush,
Mm-hmm.
and the cases where the craft seemed to be completely intact.
That's right. Well, that is true. They're in possession of at least two craft that are completely intact and operational. Okay, what I can say is, look at that we have. They keep talking about crash retrieval stuff, you know, but the fact of the matter is that the groups that have been tasked with recovering UFOs, you know, have recovered those that have crashed, but there are others that they have recovered fully operational UFOs, which means that they're not crashed, they're not disabled. Now, the fact that they don't know how to fly them, or they can't figure out what the technology is or how it works, is a separate question. But it's like,
sure.
you know, the question is that when I say an operationally, you know, either you have a you've gone to the wrecking yard from the highway patrol and retrieved a crashed up automobile, you know, and you say, okay, I have a crashed automobile in my possession, or you go to the dealer, and you get a brand new car. That's an operational car. Now the question is whether you
Okay.
know how to drive it or not, or how
Sure.
it works
Sure.
technologically. That's a separate issue. But the same teams that are tasked to go recover downed UFOs have in fact recovered fully operational UFOs.
Wow.
That doesn't mean they know how to operate them, but
Sure.
that they're fully intact. They're not crashed. They're not damaged. They're right there, and they've got a couple of these.
Do you know, like, how they would transport though? Like, do
Yes.
they drag them on a 18-wheeler,
Yeah,
or
they go in and they cordon off the entire area. They declare, you know, that there's some sort of a hazmat kind of danger there. They disguise their recovery teams as hazard materials recovery teams. They cordoned off the whole area. They invoke the local police and everything sometimes and close it off. And then they go in with the full 18-wheeler. They elevate it, put it onto the trail, cover it up with big tarps and canvases, and then take it out of there. And sometimes they move them on barges. They move them on the water with barges so that they can get them into places where they store a number of these at places that are accessed by water, and they bring them in on barges and then unload them to keep them in the hangars that are near the water.
Wow. No, that's amazing. I mean, I would assume that they've tried, if they know they're operational, someone has tried to fly it or do
Oh yeah,
something, right?
I don't have any,
Right, test
no
it,
doubt, there's no doubt about that. But for
right?
example,
Yeah.
that they recovered out of the crash actually at Roswell, they recovered this helmet that is worn by the pilot, and it's clear that the
Oh,
crash is piloted by telepathy, through the use of this helmet. And
yeah,
the fact that the people that are in the Air Force don't have a high enough level of consciousness to be able to operate the helmet doesn't mean that the vehicle is not functioning. It's just that they
sure.
don't know how to do it,
How do they know then that the helmet operates the craft?
because they realize that's what it was for. They could tell that that's what this was for.
Interesting. So not for safety reasons,
No,
they need
no,
it to
no.
actually operate the craft.
It's a
Interesting.
special helmet that is used in the
I
navigation of the craft.
What does it look like? A Magneto helmet? Or are we talking like full, like a fighter pilot, I guess, helmet? Or I don't
Uh,
know.
I haven't seen the helmet,
Got
so
it.
I
Got it.
just know that it exists.
Yeah. No, that's I mean, that's got to be up there with one of the, you know, more, you know, cool things that you've heard in this, phenomena, right? Like that these two
Yeah,
craft or
yeah,
right? That's pretty neat. I mean, my mind's blown here in this, Danny, to
yeah.
be honest with you. Wow. So, are there any instances where these craft get stolen? Has that ever happened?
No, no. There have been people talking about trying to do it, but I've made a point not to do that. don't,
Yeah,
don't try that.
sure.
Don't try that.
Yeah,
No,
how do you
no,
put that game plan together? All right, guys, we're gonna go
no.
in for this UFO. No, that's absolutely fascinating. Do you think that these operating craft could be part of disclosure? Like, do you think these craft will ever come out and like the public will ever get to see it,
Sure.
or you just
Yes.
is that off the table?
No. These are on the table. This is on the table. I
Okay.
mean, if we're talking about disclosure that means anything at all,
Yeah.
they're on the table.
Yeah.
This information, as you know, the statute that's been drafted and passed by the Senate, specifically mandates that any and all information and materials that have been recovered or possessed by the United States government that is more than 25 years old has to be immediately released.
Yeah.
Unless the president intervenes specifically personally, cannot delegate it to anybody else, has to make the personal decision to postpone the public disclosure of a particular piece of information. But that's not going to cover, the craft that have been recovered.
Sure.
That's like
Sure.
hiding the whole thing and pretending you're just going to let the shadow of it be revealed.
Yeah.
you
Yeah. I mean, no, I agree. That would be I mean, that's gonna be mind blowing. Um, you know, speaking of the president, you
know?
know, I'm not trying to get political too much, right? Here, stay neutral, but the big event did happen on Saturday, and
Yeah.
former President Trump, who is running for office,
Hmm.
there was an attempted assassination right on his life.
Months old, and if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
And I'm curious just how you think that will affect disclosure, like the movement for it. You know, is he better to have in office than Biden? Does it really matter? I don't
The
know.
lawyer would say that, that's a compound question. There's several pieces to that question you just asked. You know,
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm
number
sorry.
one, I think that the event itself, has obviously uh, increased the popularity of former President Trump. The fact
Sure.
that he has survived it. We've had these
Yes.
terrible experiences with presidents and former presidents, being shot at, and so, and that we all wish we could relive history and have caused them not to have been killed, and that
Yeah.
if they had recovered from being shot, that we would all pour our sympathy out toward them as we do for former President Trump, and I'm hoping that it has had some kind of a dramatic effect upon him. That it's true that, that when I saw him last night, for the first time in public since he was shot, that there was a difference in him, that you could tell that there was a difference of some kind. I don't know if it's only going
You
to be
said you saw it
temporary.
on TV or in person?
In TV. No, in
Okay,
TV.
on TV.
When
Yeah.
it was,
Yeah.
it was clear that he was a more humbled person. He
Oh,
had, he's
interesting.
obviously confronted his own mortality here.
Sure.
There's some chance. There's some chance that he, in fact, has been tempered, by this experience of coming that close to death. We're talking
Yeah.
about a matter of 1 inch here, you know,
Absolutely. It's
at,
crazy. Yeah.
at a range of 150 yards. We're talking
Yeah.
about a 1 inch difference here between him, joining Bobby Kennedy and President John Kennedy and others, in being fatally killed or fatally shot. The bottom line
Yeah.
is that I am extraordinarily hopeful that this has had some sort of transformative effect upon him. I mean, in whatever one's politics are, that
Sure.
one would have hoped that something would have happened to Trump to get him to moderate his kind of inclinations toward violence and calling people to violence and division and hostility and threatening people. That if he can quell that aspect of his personality, he's going to be much more popular. Uh, and he's already said that he's redrafting his entire speech. I mean, I don't think that it's appropriate for people to be engaged in the kind of messianic type of activity that we saw Senator Scott engaging in, for example, last night. Saying that this
Yeah.
is a miracle that God has picked Trump to be president. And look, God saved
Yeah.
his life. That is unfortunate, inappropriate, and sacrilegious, to be clear about it. But the bottom
Yeah.
line is that then you get to the second part of your question. Is that going to have any effect upon the election? That I think it does. I think it increases the chances of Trump being elected. You know,
Yeah.
and I don't know whether that's a temporary effect. If he comes back and starts acting like he was before, threatening people and advocating violence and doing things that he'd been doing in the past, he's going to squander that goodwill that he has now, accumulated from the event that's taken place. I hope that he is tempered. I hope that he has seen his own mortality. I think that's hopefully has had some perspective change to him. That he, as he said, he shouldn't be alive now. I shouldn't even be here.
Yeah.
That's his immediate response. If he can take that to heart, literally take it to heart, and soften his heart, and allow himself to really be more compassionate, more humble, that's going to increase the chances that he could win. Okay, now that's going to confront the Democratic Party with an even uh, more difficult choice that they've been faced with over the past several weeks, since the June 27th debate, trying to figure out whether or not they're going to be able to get somebody younger, more intellectually acute, to take up the banner of the Democratic Party. And they're obviously all talking about ascending into office, potentially Kamala Harris, who's his vice president. And I think people are talking about there being some alternative candidate for the presidency, not only an alternative to President Biden, but an alternative to Vice President Kamala Harris. I don't think that's reasonable. I think that's unreasonable.
Yeah.
The real question settles on who's going to be the vice president, the Kamala Harris. If in fact he were to step back, especially in light of what's happened on Saturday, and people now realizing that former President Trump has an even higher chance of winning the election than he did before. And that when everybody was talking about trying to figure out how to talk President Biden into stepping back as the candidate, so that it's compounded that difficulty. But if in fact the Democratic Party people are able to prevail upon President Biden, to realize that his chances of having lost that were probably 51% probable that he might have lost before this, they're probably up to 55% probable that he'll lose now in light of the additional sympathy for President Trump, if President Trump or former President Trump conducts himself accordingly.
Sure.
And therefore, the Democratic Party is going to have to try to figure out what they might do. And the obvious answer to this is that they have to have President Biden direct his delegates. He said twice in the interview that was filed that when he was interviewed after this, that it's okay for his delegates to vote for somebody else. That would technically be viewed as a releasing of his delegates. If anybody was a lawyer and heard what he said it twice.
Wow.
That they're perfectly free to vote for anybody they want, But if he were to release his delegates, I think that the logical thing would be for them to vote for Vice President Kamala Harris to ascend to those delegates. It would be wiser for President Biden, if he's going to withdraw from mandating that his delegates vote for him, if he's going to step back from that, he should in fact direct them to vote for Kamala Harris. Then the question that arises is, who would she pick for her vice president that would give her any chance of defeating Trump? And the answer to that, to me, is perfectly clear. It's only one person.
Who do you think?
Barack Obama.
Oh, wow.
Oh, right.
Barack Obama as vice president?
Yes.
Can you do that?
He absolutely can. He absolutely can. I've done a major memos on this. That if you take into account Article 2, which has to do with the vice presidency and the qualifications for being vice president, the only qualifications that a vice president has to have is that they are a natural born citizen, or that they have become a natural born citizen within the time, and they're 35 years old. And it says that specifically in the article. In the 12th Amendment and the 22nd Amendment that are operational here, there's long discourse on the floor of the House and Senate when the 22nd Amendment was passed back in 1953. It was perfectly clear that they anticipated a former president, even though they had served 2 terms, despite the limitation on their being able to be elected 3 times.
Yeah.
They're not eligible to be elected a 3rd time, but they're eligible to be vice president. Then the question that arises is a technical question: is what happens in the extraordinarily unlikely event that as vice president to Kamala Harris, for some reason she would later be able to be unable to serve? Could he ascend to the presidency? And the answer to that question is yes, that he could. He could ascend to the presidency, but only for a 2-year period. If you understand the actual law that governs this,
Okay.
and that a Kamala Harris and Barack Obama ticket would have a realistic chance of being able to win over and against Donald Trump, which even though the
Wow.
Democratic Party doesn't believe that a Biden Harris ticket could win.
Yeah.
That's
No.
the reason why he has to step back. He has to step back, and he has to direct his delegates to vote the nomination for president to Kamala Harris, and why Kamala Harris needs to pick Barack Obama as her vice president.
I gotta admit that I have not heard that at all.
No, you wouldn't hear
Who
that.
do you? Yeah, no, but I like it. It's. I like this. I like your thinking on that.
Well,
Is
it's not
there? Do
my
you think
thinking.
one?
Not my thinking. It's the constitutional. It's the constitutional rules.
Well, that you put it together, or somebody did. Put that thought together, because that's not the name I thought you would name Obama, and I just off the top of my head would just think, oh, that's not even possible. But
It
no, I
is.
mean,
That's
I
right.
get it.
But it is.
Is one more, or is one better for UAP disclosure than the other? One ticket
You
over the
mean,
other? Do you
are you
prefer the
talking about?
Republicans
Are you
going
talking about
in,
Biden?
Trump, or
You're talking about Biden or Trump
yeah, or
or Kamala
any? I
Harris or
mean,
Trump?
yeah, Biden versus Trump, or Kamala Harris. I mean, do you see? What would be your favorite people in power to help
Well,
UAP disclosure?
let,
Who
let
would
me
you
let me
want to
put it a
put
little
as
bit different,
president?
Patrick. That it's clear that Chuck Schumer, as the Democratic majority leader of the Senate, who was the principal sponsor of the Schumer
Yeah,
rounds amendment, it's perfectly clear that he had cleared that with President Biden. All right, you don't have the head of the Democratic Party, not be
sure.
consulted if the majority leader of the Democrats in the Senate are going to propose a bill like that. So
Yeah.
clearly he's already signed off on this. In fact, he already signed
Wow.
the House passed bill ordering the 6 military services and the 18 intelligence agencies and the 32 Defense Department agencies, all of them, to gather together all of the information they have about UFOs and extraterrestrial life, and gather it all together and have it ready to be presented to the archives on October 20th of this year. The President Biden's already signed that. So he's supportive of that, and he's supportive of the larger
Sure.
bill, which the Senate
Yeah.
passed, to have the review board put together to craft a UAP controlled disclosure campaign plan that would be rolled out
Yeah.
over this 7-year period. That's he's already agreed to that. Now Trump, on the other hand, is in fact probably more disposed toward disclosing the UFO information because he is so unorthodox, let's
Yeah.
say,
That's true.
and
That's
is
true.
more mercurial. And
Yeah.
but even Trump, when he was president, you'll remember, uh, kept secret even portions of the JFK documents that are possessed by the CIA and the intelligence community. Okay,
Yeah.
so Trump
Yeah.
at that point in time wanted to continue to keep secret some of the information that the JFK disclosure movement wanted to get made public. Uh, Now, he may well revisit that position on the JFK information in light of Saturday.
Yeah.
Uh, I hope he would. Uh,
Sure.
but my sense is that he would. The real fundamental question here, Patrick, is which Donald Trump are we talking about here? There's the Donald Trump that predated Saturday, and there
Yeah.
may be a different Donald Trump that we're talking about
Sure.
now, who has in a
Sure.
certain sense come back from the dead, and has
Yeah.
had a near death experience. That even
Sure.
though it was a different kind of near death experience than the one we normally talk about, if he has
Yeah.
been tempered by this experience and he's genuinely a changed person, in that he is able to maintain that kind of level of consciousness, and he eschews the declaration that he wants to become a dictator, which he said, and that he wants to seek vengeance on all of his political opponents, and he wants to totally weaponize the Justice Department. If he abandons those positions, uh, I don't think it's going to cause him to lose any of his core support. And it's going to increase his support on the part of other people, especially so
Sure.
long as Biden remains the Democratic Party nominee for president. And in
Yeah.
that sense, in the pre-Saturday Donald Trump is reckless, unpredictable, eclectic. Even his own military advisors thought he was crazy. Said that this guy is a nutcase. You can't rely upon him. He doesn't have any kind of consistent integrity. That Donald Trump, could do anything. It could be completely reckless in his abandon with regard to the UFO information, one way or another. Either keep it totally secret and demand that he get all the information personally so he could utilize it in some way,
Sure.
or to
Sure.
recklessly just throw it out in front of everybody and say, "Here, take this if you want it."
There you
But
go.
the chastened,
Hmm.
the chastened Donald Trump, if that person exists now, could in fact make a sound, responsible decision to agree with the Senate bill, and then
Yeah.
he could then put pressure on the House of Representatives to pass that, because
Sure.
he has the support inside a Republican-controlled House of Representatives, and if he were to
Yeah.
win the presidency, the likelihood is that the Republican Party is going to maintain control of the House of Representatives. And
Yeah.
that therefore they could be directed by him as president, to basically approve the Senate bill, and have him be the disclosure president. Okay. Now,
Sure.
my sense is that I would vastly prefer him to be the chastened Donald Trump, who would make a wise and sage set of decisions about all of this, than the reckless, and authoritarian and autocratic Donald Trump, the pre-Saturday Donald Trump. Okay, so
Sure.
now with regard to President Biden, if he were to stay in, he is going to be he will have won by such a narrow margin that even though he approved the Senate bill as president presently, it's not clear how careful he would have to be, even though it's his last term, it's his second term,
Yeah.
whether he would continue to move forward with this. But my guess is he would. So that in either case, in any of the three cases, the pre-Saturday unchastened authoritarian Donald Trump, there's a distinct possibility that he could recklessly release the information without any kind of adequate controls. If he's the
Sure.
chastened Donald Trump, he could make some wise and sage decisions about it so as to become the disclosure president. And if President Biden were to remain in and win by a narrow margin, I assume he would probably still go forward with his previous approval of this act, even though he did
Sure.
for down in the weeds, he did do a signing statement on the National Defense Authorization Act of 2024, specifically designating a portion of the National Defense Authorization Act dealing with the UFO issue, saying that he was going to retain as the president deciding what criteria he would use to exercise his authority to keep certain pieces of the information secret if he chose to. Okay, he did do that signing
Okay.
statement, which I guess virtually nobody knows about, but it's true
I
that
I hadn't heard of that.
yeah, that's true. It's just a piece of information that people don't realize, that lawyers pay
Well,
attention to that kind of information. You know,
I get
That-
it. I get
that-
it. It's in the
but
details.
the bottom line is, I think he would come forward with that. But then the question would be, if he were to win by a narrow margin, would that cause the House of Representatives to come over under the control of the Democratic Party? Would they be able to get control of the House of Representatives? Would they be able to
That's
retain
interesting.
control of the Senate, which they
Sure.
have by just one vote? All of those questions are up in the air right now. So this
Yeah.
is an extraordinarily fluid time, not only for people interested in UFO disclosure, but for all Americans. This is an extraordinarily fluid and unstable time. And the same thing is true for the whole world. That not
Yeah.
only are we trying to deal with a reckless, hardcore, reactionary government in Israel, headed up by Netanyahu, who is doing horrendous things in Gaza, and that the people the government in Gaza is also doing horrible things by invading Israel and slaughtering innocent people. That type of instability that's operating in the Middle East right now is extraordinarily problematic. And of course,
Sure.
the problem of the invasion, and there's no disputing the fact that Russia has invaded, the Ukraine.
Yeah.
That's not a defensive measure. So the instability that afflicts our human family at the present time is the consequence of our human family still functioning in a way that is cut off from the larger reality that surrounds us in the universe. I mean, we're like an indigenous tribe on a little island in the Pacific back in the 1950s that didn't even know that there was a larger civilization outside of their island.
Yeah.
And that this is a very unstable situation to be in when you've cut yourself off from 99% of all of reality. So that we're all very hopeful that with the careful, controlled disclosure of this information to our people and the readjustment of our institutions, our economic institutions, our political institutions, our geopolitical institutions, our religious institutions, our scientific institutions, with the careful modernization and updating of all of our different institutions to adjust to this larger reality that we're talking about, would hopefully help to stabilize our planet. It would put us in control of our environment so that we're not destroying our environment by all the contaminants that we're putting into the environment that are destabilizing the entire climatic system. And we hopefully those things will happen. But at the same time, we have to be, and this is a kind of a rare note from inside the UFO community, we have to be careful not to be careless with regard to this. I don't agree with the people who believe that the existence of the extraterrestrial civilization in and of itself is a threat to the national security of our country or the planetary security of our planet. But I do believe that we need to be circumspect and careful and cautious with regard to what kind of a relationship we establish with this extraterrestrial civilization. I mean that we're actually at some kind of potential disadvantage if you have a civilization, the members of which are 1 billion years more advanced than we are. I mean, this is not an enviable position to be in. So we have to
unfathomable. It's unfathomable, right? That far ahead.
No, it's not. It's not unfathomable. It's fathomable, but only if you turn your attention to doing it. The problem is right now, the national security state has just said there's no such thing. It's not true. There's nothing like that going on. They still maintain with the DeGrasse or whatever his name is that, oh yeah, well there may be other civilizations somewhere in the universe, but they can't get here because they can't go faster than the speed of light. That's where they're still on that one. And so that they're saying you don't need to worry about all that. So we don't need to direct our attention toward how we're going to accommodate a relationship with these people. That is as stupid as the activity that's being engaged in by Israel right now. That's as stupid as the conduct that's being engaged in by Russia right now. This is as stupid as the conduct that's being engaged in by our national security state right now. We've got to restabilize ourselves and become more intelligent, better informed, have a much wider perspective on reality in order to save ourselves from ourselves on our planet.
Sure. How do we get closer to this reality? Like, what are the next steps coming up? Like, clearly whistleblowers coming out, and I know you talked about this before, right? Who have put their hands on the craft, maybe even the crafts themselves or body or something that's past the line of he said, she said, right? Something
right.
past that line.
Yeah.
Is that what's next? Is it this bill? Like, where's the attention going? There gonna be more hearings with some of these people coming
Yeah.
out, these whistleblowers
Yeah.
you're representing?
Yeah, but you're not going to get these people to come out without greater protections
Sure.
to them.
So that's got
And
to pass first,
I'm not talking
right?
about just about the whistleblowers, the people who want to come forward and talk about this. I'm talking about the ones who don't want to come forward. I'm talking about the people in the
Yeah,
legacy group. I'm talking about the people that are concerned with being criminally indicted, for what they've done
sure,
in the past. You
sure.
aren't going to get those people to come out unless you set up some kind of special program for handling this. Giving some kind of amnesty, some kind of immunity to these people to come forward to talk about what they know about. If you're going to lure them in out of the shadows, okay.
Yeah,
I know they're in
I
the
can hear that.
shadows. I know the people who know them. And they're saying flat out, I'm not coming out here. I'm not coming out into the light of day unless I've got some kind of immunity or some kind of amnesty here. And amnesty has got
Have
to
you
be put
talked to them at all yourself personally? Any
I'm
of
not
these
at
people?
liberty I'm not at liberty to,
Okay.
to
Yeah,
answer that.
I understand.
But
I understand.
what I'm saying is that these people realize that the kind of retaliation that could be undertaken against them
Yeah,
that could range anywhere from the application of lethal force to silence them, all the way to denying them any future promotions, the
sure.
challenging of their security clearances,
Yeah,
the ostracizing of them from the entire community. There are all kinds of things
yeah,
that they're perfectly aware of could happen to them unless
sure.
unless there's a dramatic increase in the type of protections that they're going to be given. Our New Paradigm Institute has been drafting the legislation to do that. Okay.
Got it. So
But
that's basically the next step to get the whistleblowers to testify,
that is.
right, publicly. Okay, to get that done. I mean, I'm not trying to hold you to this, but just curious, first question I would have if I heard this and if I was watching this, what timeline are we looking at for that? What is that? What
Well,
kind of timeline does that look like?
we put a bill that partially addresses this into the hands of the House of Representatives right now. That bill is now being considered for what they call a rule,
Okay.
the rule under which it'll be put onto the floor of the House for a vote. And then if that rule gets passed and it gets put onto the floor of the House to be voted on, it will pass. As long as Turner in the intelligence community and Rogers over in the Armed Services Committee and Johnson as the Speaker of the House doesn't try to block it, it will go onto the
Sure.
floor and it will pass. Okay, and then that means that in the conference committee that goes on, because the Senate has already finalized its language, which doesn't
Yeah.
include these kind of extensive protections that we have created at the
Sure.
New Paradigm Institute. Okay, and then it'll have to take place in the conference committee. And my judgment is that if this is put onto the floor of the House, it will pass. And if it passes, it will be proposed in the conference committee to be included in the National Defense Authorization Act. And the Senate conferees will agree. And that we'll be
Got it.
there at our next step of providing some substantial additional protection to the whistleblowers. Now, then the very next stage will be the new bill that we're drafting now at the New Paradigm Institute, our legal team, to provide a larger scale amnesty program, to provide amnesty to some of the people who are willing to come forward from the shadows deep in the legacy group, to come out and make available this information to the intelligence committees in the House and Senate. That will be the
Got
next
it.
step. So that this is a little intricate as as lawyers are, but there are
Sure.
2 or 3 steps that still need to be taken to draw those people up out of the shadows, give them the protection that they need to talk to the Senate and House and get it done. And so we've got to stop Turner and Rogers and Johnson over on the House side. Those 3 guys. We got to stop them from succumbing to the money that's being paid to 2 of them, to Rogers and to
Sure.
Turner by the aerospace industry. We've got to stop them from blocking this. And so what we've done is the New Paradigm Institute is now launched just yesterday a new $60,000 internet system and website where we can coordinate now all 435 congressional districts, reaching down in to help work with the individuals there in those districts to figure out how to reach their local newspapers, how to write letters to their editor, how to get school assemblies set up for high schools and junior high schools where we can tell people what this information is that's now coming out. We've got to set up the infrastructure for sharing this information with our people. And that's what we're doing right now. And that's why the New Paradigm Institute, as you know, is the private citizen group that has been designated by the Senate in their bill to be the citizen group that is going to be recommending people to the panel, the review board that is part of the Senate legislation. And so that we're carrying on our responsibilities. We've got over 550 people who have volunteered to work with us. We have academics that are talking about providing classes at universities ranging all the way from Harvard to Ohio State University. We've got lawyers working with us. We have physicists working with us. We have all these people that are working together to try to design the new paradigm that is going to be conveyed to everybody to help adjust to this new information. And that's what's happening right now. And that we can get down into the discussion of individual pieces of legislation, what the timing is on all of those things. But at the same time, we have to also engage our people in the larger strategic questions, like what type of relationship do we want to have with this extraterrestrial civilization? How are we going to preserve and protect our own sense of human dignity here? If we've been living in this bubble for ever since the beginning of time, believing that we're the only intelligent species in the entire universe, that we're going to have to come to grips with the fact that isn't true, and that we've got to.
But why do we even need an agreement with them? Why are we allowed to say no? We don't want an agreement with them. Like, have we thought about what are the advantages of bringing them into our society? What if it's not good? What if that's not a good idea?
That's one of the questions we have to ask, Patrick. But that we aren't able to ask that question in any kind of juridical setting as long as the national security state is pretending they don't exist.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Or that if they do exist, they can't get here. Because they can't go faster than the speed of light. That we've got to get past that spot in order to get our people engaged in the conversation that has to take place now. And that's what we're trying to do. The New Paradigm Institute is working not only on the short-term issues of the particular pieces of legislation we need to get passed to draw out the whistleblowers and protect them, and to draw out the legacy people to get them to convey their information to Congress. We're working on the actual new paradigm. We're working with the religious organizations on a global level to get them to start to disclose information that they have about this. We're working with physicists to start revealing some of the deeper information they know about physics that they still haven't even made available to everybody because it's all still top secret. That we're working on this together. And what we're doing is we're inviting everybody to come join us at the New Paradigm Institute to participate in this, to just contact us at newparadigminstitute.org. We've got the website now that can handle all of the influx of information and get the information out to you to help train you as citizens for disclosure in your own congressional district, in your own local town, to write letters to the editor to share the information. That's what we're doing right now.
No, I love that. And look, guys, go to there's a link in the description. So you can just click on it and go right to where Danny just told you as well. No, I'm in, Danny. Where are there any like whistleblowers, like new ones? Are they coming like every month? Is this something you guys are interviewing people all the time? Or you guys kind of already have them set and it's just legislation at this point?
Well, we have a number of people who've already contacted us that are whistleblowers. that want to be whistleblowers that have not yet come
Yeah.
forward and talked with the Senate Intelligence.
Okay.
The Senate Intelligence Committee is basically the funnel right now. That's where about 40 of the people have gone to already. They've already testified under oath, in depositions, to the people who have the adequate security clearances on the Senate Intelligence Committee. We've got those people. We've got additional people who are coming to us, who have contacted us at the New Paradigm Institute because they know we have the legal team to actually be able to represent them. What we've said to them is, look, stand by here. We're in the process of trying to get you the kind of protection that you need. We know you need. That if we're going to be able to effectively protect you, one of the jobs we're doing is crafting the legislation that's going to help protect you. I don't want to deceive people and think, oh, here, we're going to march you into the Senate or the House and make you public right now when we don't believe you have the adequate protections you need. So that's what we're doing. But we've got people lined up now. We're in communication with them. We're having communications with them to let them know that we're standing ready to represent them legally. But our job has got to be to get them the kind of protection they need to start with.
Sure. I mean, 100%. Do you guys find yourselves like, the last time we spoke, Jason Sands had just come out and we spoke about that. And you said that he had, come to you, you turned him away, and he has since come out with even more things that he said, more people that he's supposedly connected with. Like, has that changed? Like, have you changed your mind on Jason Sands? Are you reevaluating? Maybe you will represent him?
I'm not at liberty to discuss that, Patrick. Which ought to give you some idea.
Never know. Sure. Yeah, it does. Absolutely. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I've just been listening to his stories more. And look, Danny, this is what I think becomes hard for a lot of people is, okay, we're not alone. Okay, they've come to the planet. Okay, we got UFOs. Okay, maybe there's some bodies there. Okay. I telepathically connected and I saw a future life on another planet. All of a sudden, all these other stories start coming out and you're going, okay. I was willing to buy XYZ,
Right.
but now you're taking it to a level that's like, come on, dude. Now what am I supposed to do now with these stories? And I don't know. Is it me? Is it my personal biases? Is it I can't accept this new reality? Is it actual bullshit? Like I just get so confused if I'm being honest.
That's our job. I mean, that's our job as lawyers. That we have to vet this. This is what my job was at the Disclosure Project with Stephen Greer for 20 years, to vet the witnesses.
Yeah.
Who are we going to confirm here? It was what I was doing at Harvard with Dr. John Mack. Who are we going to present to the Harvard faculty as the people who can be credited as to what they're saying? This is the same job that I did with Steve Bassett for the citizens' hearings on disclosure, in 2013. This is what I do. So we're in the process of trying to evaluate these people. The only people that we're going to end up, ultimately representing and presenting to the inspectors general, are the people who we personally believe to be credible, and that they're going to have to go through things like, we're going to put them on the psychological stress evaluator. We're not just going to just take their word for it, or else, put our finger in the air and say, what do we think of this person? The psychological stress evaluator will break anybody, that we'll find out whether they're telling the truth and what precisely they're telling the truth about. And if they're prevaricating in any way and gilding the lily in some way, we'll know. You can tell that with the psychological stress evaluator. And that's what we have access to those private investigators. I was one of the 3 trial lawyers in F. Lee Bailey's office that used the lie detectors for anybody. That's how we got to get the information out of Santos Trafficante, the head of the mafia in Havana, to find out about the assassination team that killed the president. That's how we found it out.
Using the lie detector test.
No, it's not a lie detector.
Yeah.
It's a psychological stress evaluator.
The stress evaluator.
Steroids,
Got it. No, I've heard about this, and no. I mean, I are there people walking around or in the UFO community who are out there who have failed your test, but you turn them away, but they still go out and talk?
I'm not liberty to discuss that topic.
I wish you were. I wish you were, because that would really help me out and a lot of people out. Like, okay, don't trust that guy. Don't talk to that guy. Don't believe that guy, because you know, you only have so much time to invest in this, and it's such an important topic that,
Hmm.
like, the idea of pulling a thread that's a complete waste of time
Yeah. No, we
would, you
can't do
know, it's
that.
kind of
I mean, we can't
infuriating.
do that. We can't do it to anybody whom we've agreed to represent conditionally. We can't solicit information from
Sure.
them and put them on the psychological stress evaluator, and then find out they're lying, and then go reveal that to the whole world. I mean, that would violate our attorney-client initial relationship with them. You know, but if
Yeah,
in fact someone
I
we
get it.
haven't done that with is out running around, saying, like Corey Good or somebody like that, running out around,
Yeah,
you can confront them and say, look, would you be willing to submit yourself to a psychological stress evaluator test performed by the New Paradigm Institute? And that's going to become the gold standard. And if they say
sure.
yes,
I'm in.
then do it, and we'll tell people what
Yeah.
the answer to the question is. And if they won't do it, that'll tell you right away what the answer is.
You know, there's an interesting test that chefs will give people coming in to stage, which is just a term meaning
Yeah,
you'll go into a kitchen and work for free like an intern, right?
scramble an
And
egg.
typically a lot of yeah, well,
Show
that's
me your
one of them,
scrambled
but
egg. Right.
even quicker than that is you just ask someone to cut an onion for you. It's that simple. You say,
Mhm.
grab this, and immediately you can tell everything about that person, the way they grab the knife, the way they slide the cutting board, the way
Yeah,
they grab the onion to
yeah.
even begin to, you don't need to know anything past that. Is there something like that that people looking into the UFO community can look at? Is there some simple test that we could look at, or something for people, like a home
Okay.
test? I don't
Yeah.
know.
What we're doing is we're trying to set up the New Paradigm Institute to do exactly that, to be able to
Yeah,
provide that type of verification. So I say that's what we did for 20 years for the Disclosure Project. That's what I did for
sure.
we're the
Yeah.
ones who can do that, and that we can give people the good housekeeping seal of approval or not, you know,
Okay.
and
Yeah. Fair
that's an
enough.
important service. That's an important service, not only to the Senate and the
I
House,
agree.
but to the public.
I agree 100%. And look, a lot of people don't have the time to do the type of work you're doing and the quality. Let's be real. So,
Mhm.
what do you know about? Guess you're about to tell me. What do you know about Michael Herrera?
That's again, I'm not at liberty to discuss the details on people, like individuals
Okay.
we talk to.
Sure. Okay. So, if I say a name, and you've had some sort of interaction, I get it. These are just questions. I like you, Danny, so that's why I
No,
ask, because I'm
it's
just like,
not.
oh,
I wouldn't respect you if you didn't. Right?
yeah, totally. These are names I just think about, and again, the last name that I have is Tim Taylor.
Nah.
Have you ever heard that name before?
Yes to that.
Yes, you've heard the name.
Yes.
Love it. I love it. You're good, Danny. You're
Well, that's
good.
like if
Yeah.
you ask a lawyer. You ask a lawyer, what do you know what time it is? The answer is yes.
Oh, you're right. You're right. So nothing you can say about Tim Taylor.
No, no. I
That's
can't talk
interesting
about
in and
any
of itself,
individuals
to be
with whom
honest
we
with
may
you.
have been in communication.
Okay. No, that's interesting in itself. I just spoke with Steve Bassett. You mentioned him earlier, right before you, actually.
Uh,
So I'm on a bit of a marathon podcasting today, which I'm sure you do every day. You're always out there. You work really hard, and I noticed that, by the way. So, um, he mentioned something. He brought up something that was quite fascinating to me. To be honest with you, he was talking about star to star, right? The theory of star to star. These are actually extraterrestrials. This phenomena, and I gotta admit, he's one of the only people, if not the only person I know, really pushing that theory. Like, to him, that's at the top. That's what he thinks. And I'm telling him, well, interdimensional and time travel, all these other theories that are out there, and he just doesn't buy that, at all. I'm curious, how can the idea of what it is be so different amongst everybody?
We're trying to understand what star-to-star faring high technology non-humans are up to, and they're not giving seminars. They don't have podcasts. They don't come down and give lectures. They're not teaching
Yeah.
at the universities. They have
Yeah.
the ability to cloak, to come and go, to do anything they want, any way they want. And so we're faced with that very significant problem.
Well, I mean that the real answer to that would be the degree to which you rely upon credible people and sources to do your vetting of that information. And most people
Yeah.
aren't in a position to really do that, and so that what they're really
Sure.
doing is they're just making kind of gastronomically driven decisions, and then they're holding them forward as though that's the truth, only because
Yeah.
they've come to an operational theory that that's true, and we have to get past that. We have to really start being able to apply objective criteria for determining what the answers to these questions are. And there needs to be some sort of source to which people can go to get reliable information. And that organization, the New Paradigm Institute, has to earn that respect, has to do the work to be able to provide the kind of information to the Senate, to the House, and to the public as a whole. And that's why that's exactly what we're in the process of doing. We're hoping to become the gold standard for people being able to
Sure.
determine what's true here about what's going on in the UFO field.
So what do you think the NHI is? What would New Paradigm teach
Well,
about this?
we're in the process of trying to ascertain it now. We have a range of things to examine, to explore. I've actually given 8 lectures, through the New Paradigm Institute, which are available. I think they're going to be available on our new website, where I've kind of laid
Okay.
out what the range of issues are that we've got to take a look at, into research in depth. I've set forth some hypotheses that people have proffered, that we're examining. We're doing this just as though we're doing a major criminal defense, of doing the deep dive analysis of what the facts are, understanding clearly
Yeah.
what the law is, understanding what the jurisdiction of the different entities are that we're going to be presenting the information to. These are all things that we're doing right now. These different theories of what the mechanism is by means of which they move from one star system to another star system is obviously one of the key issues that we're looking at right now.
Sure.
In how many different species there are, what are the different lengths of the civilizations of the different species? What are the means that we're going to be using to be able to ascertain that information? What is the spread of witnesses that have actually purported to have direct contact with any of the beings from the different star systems, and what do they purport to have been told? If you put them on a psychological stress evaluator and they prove to be telling what they believe to be sincerely the truth, what does that mean? Does that mean that it is the truth? Or does it just mean that they're absolutely convinced that it's the truth? As you know, the psychological stress evaluator works with the completely involuntary contraction of the vocal cords, which is an autonomic system that functions in the body. And it purportedly is functioning in a way that is completely incapable of concealing untruths that the person is saying. And if their body knows it deep down and they don't even consciously realize that they're saying something that is untrue, we can still unmask that. So that's
I would love to take this test. Danny, if you ever need a guinea
well,
pig to test it
it
around,
depends.
I would do it.
I would assure you, Patrick, it depends entirely upon the questions you're being asked.
Fair
That's how
enough.
much you would like to take this test. Okay.
Well, I don't know anything about UFOs, or I've never had an experience, so I got no inside information. But it's just sounds fascinating. I'm a curious person, and that sounds fascinating to me. That idea, and I actually believe in that. So, yeah, that's very cool that y'all are doing that, and y'all take it that seriously. Look, I think it would be great to have a place that y'all are trying to build, right? That y'all are currently building, right, and expanding upon. Yes, this would be great for the public. There's no question. Something we can trust. Misinformation and propaganda is so rampant
That's
in
right.
every facet of life, but definitely in this topic as well. And it does become harder and harder every day to know what's going on, who to trust, who to invest your time and money in, because people invest their personal money into things. They invest their personal time, and people take this very seriously. Some people, which I get, and especially if you've had a personal experience,
Right.
you take it even in further.
Right.
So no,
It can be a
I'm
pretty
happy you
serious
guys are
matter.
doing that.
Yeah, it's a pretty
Yeah,
serious
yeah,
matter.
exactly.
Once you've had a UFO land in your field, and you're taken
I
on
get it.
board, you're there face to face with them. I mean, a lot of people think they're going to be really courageous and be really cool. Oh, hey,
Totally.
I'm glad you guys finally got here. Nah, not likely. There's an entire cellular reaction that your body has. That we are the end product of millions of years of evolution of survivors,
Yeah.
of the human family. And we have a very well-trained autonomic nervous system that recoils in the face of things that are so completely different, in that
Sure.
we've all gone through that. And that's why John Mack and I, we're helping get people trained to do the holotropic breathing. The people that were regular contactees, that
Yeah.
they realized when this is getting ready to happen again, and that they would do the holotropic breathing and get calmed and centered so that they could actually have communion with the beings. That we were engaged in that process when John was unfortunately killed in England.
Yeah, no, horrific, for sure. You've you've never had a personal experience, right? Or you have?
No, no,
I don't
no,
know if I asked you that last time.
no, never.
That's do you
No.
want, I mean, is that a desire you have, or you just don't
Sure,
even think about it?
sure. Everybody would think they would like to have the experience.
That's the problem.
I'm convinced that I would like to have the experience. I'm pretty well certain that I will end up having the experience if we're successful in doing what we're all
Sure.
doing. That we're going to, that within my
That's
lifetime,
cool.
we're going to have the direct experience of having direct face-to-face encounters with some of these beings. That's an extraordinary point of passage of our human family into the future.
Sure. No, well said there. Yeah, for sure. Um, Lou Elizondo's book, Imminent, is coming out. And I remember it was like a Twitter space you did not too long ago. And you got asked a question about Lou because he had released a statement about threats, and you brought that up earlier,
Like that, yeah.
and you mentioned something about a whistleblower that had got killed, and that may have spooked Lou, and you said he might have been in the program or something along those lines. Like, I mean, can you expand on that a little bit, because that caught my attention?
A person who is knowledgeable about the program, that is the crash retrieval program and the back engineering program, was found dead, and the police believed that it was a suicide, but the some of the people said, well, look,
Crazy.
you shouldn't be hasty in coming to your conclusion that it's a suicide, because he was in possession of important information that he may have been open to revealing publicly.
That's the key right there.
And therefore you should not precipitously close the investigation, just deeming it to be a suicide. You should have a homicide investigation preliminarily. And that all started to skyrocket from there. Well, I need to be
I don't know.
careful because I have personal communications with Lou, in an attorney-client context,
Of
and
course.
that I'm not
Of course.
at liberty to talk about what he thinks or believes about any of this. But
Sure.
a person who ended up dead, it wasn't established that he was killed, and it wasn't true that he was a whistleblower.
Got it. Okay, so he was not in the program and died.
No.
Okay. No, that's interesting. This book coming out.
It depends on what you mean by in the program. I'm saying he wasn't in the whistleblower program.
But he was in the UFO reverse engineering program.
That I'm not at liberty to discuss unless Lou were to decide.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Um, no, it's just, I mean, I get the threat aspect of it, and for Lou to release a statement like that is got to be scary. But his book that's coming out, I know a lot of people are, anticipating it. I personally can't wait as well. I know a lot of people are. Um, how much do you think this book could move the needle for something? Does this this kind of book have that kind of potential impact on moving the needle in any which
Oh yeah.
way, I
Oh,
guess?
it's going to move the needle. Yeah, it'll move the needle.
Okay. Have you read any of the book, or
No, I
I don't
just
know
know
if they
Lou.
give out?
I just know Lou.
Yeah.
I can tell you.
That's
I
better
can
than
tell
the
you it's
book,
gonna move the needle.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
You got the book in real life, as the kids would say, IRL.
that's right.
Um, right? No, that's great. I can't wait for this book, and potentially this documentary that may be coming out, as well. Like James Fox's documentary, I know is going to be coming out. The program itself. Did he interview you for that documentary, James Fox?
James? No, he said he was going to. And I'm assuming we're going to do it. I don't. No, not this new one. I've done it before. I've talked to him before, but I haven't
Sure.
been part of the new one yet.
Um, is there any other projects that you're anticipating coming out like that? Any books or documentaries that you're aware of that you're sort of excited about that are coming out?
Yes.
What are those? Or you
Oh,
can't say.
oh. Next question. Right. No, you're, well, no, that we're in communication with a number of people, trying to facilitate getting documentary films made that are completely sound and reliable, so that they can be made available to people. We're doing that through the New Paradigm Institute. We have an entire
Got it.
communications department, that we're in communication with a major production studio in LA who have agreed to do this for free for us.
Wow.
And
Awesome.
so that's I'm going to be going down next week to meet with a number of them to figure out what the alignment are of these documentaries that we're going to be getting produced, to get them out into the public.
Oh, I can't wait. That's awesome. That's amazing. That's awesome. I mean, I hope those meetings go well for you. I'm sure it's going to be great. That's phenomenal. Yeah, I love when these things come out, books, documentaries, shows, something. It's always it's nice to have some entertainment through some of this stuff that can just get very serious and very in the weeds and very, you get in the rabbit hole. So it's nice to just get some stuff that's just kind of like I don't want to say eye candy, but that kind of is. It's kind
We
of a
call
little
it
bit of eye candy.
infotainment.
Yeah, infotainment. Exactly. Exactly. But that's a better word. Yeah, exactly. No, I'm all looking forward to that. Is there anything, Danny, we didn't talk about that you want to
Well, just I guess the main
um
thing that that the practical point that the people should go to newparadigminstitute.org. They should sign up to be part of the action team there's going to be reaching out to their congresspeople. There's a place that they link in there, the action link, that it will, all they do is put your name and your zip code in there, and it'll send the message to your congressperson and your two senators telling them that you are in favor of disclosure of the UFO information. You can then sign up also to become a member of the Citizens for Disclosure in your own congressional district and become part of the back and forth communications with our new sophisticated website that we're going to have, helping to organize this around the country. You can volunteer if you are professionals of any kind that are helpful to us, to volunteer to do this. You can also contribute funds. Like we have to hire, for example, a volunteer coordinator. We got 550 volunteers that are professionals that are volunteering, but we need someone to control. We need to facilitate those people, right,
sure.
and get them
Yeah.
divided into the proper categories: the lawyers and the doctors and the Indian chiefs and the bakers, and we've got to get them all into the proper categories and maintain communications with them, so that contributions are important, that there's a booklet in California that establishes what are considered to be the fair wages for people with particular educational levels and training levels, et cetera. We abide by that. For public interest organizations, it applies to 501c3 public interest organizations. The amount that we pay the people are dramatically less than, the professional, the lawyers. I can't believe it. My class, I teach a pre-law class, at the University of California here at Santa Cruz. My kids graduate and I send them off to law school, and they come out of law school, earning $400 an hour. That I'm quite sure, given the amount of time I put on things, I'm below minimum wage. And the same is true. I think most of our staff people. The amount of time, hours, and weekends, and everything that we put in doing this.
Sure.
That it's probably illegal. We're probably below minimum wage. I'm hoping we don't get any kind of employee actions against us for paying people such low places. But the bottom line is that people can help by giving contributions. You go to the New Paradigm Institute, go to newparadigminstitute.org, and there's a place for donating. It's all tax deductible, and then we can hire more people. We can do more of these tests with the psychological stress evaluator. We can provide greater services for people. We're making clear on our website what those services are that we're prepared and capable of providing, and the more contributions we get, the more of those things we can actually do, and the quicker we can do them. And with your help, we can fulfill all of these responsibilities that we have. So that's the crass pitch of, that people can contribute to us, especially if you can contribute a monthly contribution.
Sure.
With $10, $25, $27 a month, so that you can help participate in making this work to its highest possible level. That may be the main kind of participation that you can actually do time-wise. But that's something we are asking people to help us do.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course. So again, links in the description. Go check it out. Please support the New Paradigm Institute. I definitely support what you guys are doing, Danny. Definitely speaking to you, and this being the second time, getting to kind of understand, where you're coming from, where the organization is coming from. I do feel there's definitely a benefit to having that, and I look forward to what it can grow into. And if it can provide real trustworthy information to people, and it, on the flip side, help legislation, help these whistleblowers that do want to come out. I mean, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. So
thank you, Patrick.
No,
Great.
thank you so much for coming on, Danny.
Terrific talking to you. We'll talk again soon.
Okay. I hope so, man. Okay,
thank
Danny.
you, Patrick.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep.